Uncle Luke. He would call you Mister.
Right.
And it didn't matter how many times you would say, you know, don't do that, or yes or no. He was going to do it because that's the way that we have instilled that into him.
That's right.
You know.
That's right.
And but when I saw the kids, I think that I was very that overwhelmed me.
Yes.
You know, because it just there were so many different cliques. You know.
Yes.
You know, we had that. You know, and I remember the day of his funeral, and I was sitting out in the limo, and I was waiting for to leave, and I looked out and I saw this young girl in her big stacked boots and her black hair and her piercings, and she was just bawling. And you know, it just really, because it was just a different genre of people. You know, I understand the teammates he has and kids he may have, you know, played with on all-star teams throughout the years, and but to see that, I was like, that's like a golf girl. So that kind of just, you know, kind of blew me away, because it was just all types of kids. It wasn't just Super Bowl kids. It wasn't just sports jocks. You know, it wasn't just, you know, the kids that he went to school with and knew. It was all over.
All over. You said the different cliques. I mean, if you was known for even, and Lee was far from the bunch of gangbanging. Way far from that.
It was just
and you,
all different.
you seen them come to pay respect. And to me, I was like observing of that. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, that was one of the main things.
Yeah, that was one of the main things that hit me. I was like, I mean, serious. I was like, chills. I was like, whoa. Like I said, I've been to many of them, and I have never seen, especially a whole team just shut down and just come on over. It was like, ooh, I mean, and that, like, when you was talking to me about the other stuff, like how he had changed, how stuff, you seen that he used to make him react, that now you seen it, he would just let it roll off his back like water on a duck. And I was immediately reflecting back on that day when I kept seeing so many different, like you said, different cliques. Just coming together. I mean, that was touching.
I think that was like one of the, I'll never forget looking and seeing that girl, because I just was thinking,
who was she? Where did she come from?
But it was just that was very touching to me, because I knew that he was you know, I always tell him to, you know, treat people with respect, all people.
Right.
I don't care what they look like, what they, you know, if they got disabilities, because I work with adult disabled special needs, and you know, I would bring them to work, and I just wanted them to always encounter everybody, you know, because it's very important for us to acknowledge people.
Yes.
You know, and I always, you know, it spoke to him and Dre and L.A.W.S about being mindful of people and acknowledging people. You know, I go in the store and I say hi to a person and they don't, I mean, you look dead at me. You don't. So I always say, do that. Make sure you speak to a person, acknowledge a person. I think that's
I really appreciate that part too, because, you know, we talk about that even like on the walks we do on Monday, and one time I brought that up, just what you're talking about. We need to speak to people more often. People walk right past you, look at you like, who are you and what, who, what, you know, it don't matter.
You never know what that person could give you some information.
Exactly.
Or
some help. Anything.
You never know.
Words of inspiration, whatever. That's true. That's true. Yes. One of the other things a lot of folks don't know about, but hold on, I'm going to say that again, is L.A.W.S. And the S at the end stands for spiritual.
Correct.
And then movement.
Yes.
And you put that together from your thought pattern. You just went into it. And you felt that was a revelation that you received.
I did. Yeah, I did. I really did, because you know, honestly, you know, I really wasn't thinking, you know, I'm going to, you know, I mean, because this has just happened.
Right. Yes.
You know, it seems like it's,
true.
You know, it seems forever, but it just happened.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't really thinking, but God had placed that on me. You know, it's important. You have the attention of the youth. You have attention of maybe more than just the youth. So use that. Use that for a good purpose. You know,
That's true.
because I honestly believe children want guidance.
Of
And
course.
I think
Good
we
point.
as adults have failed them.
Mm.
You know, whether it's what we haven't said or what we have said, I think we have failed them in some kind of way, you know, where they are just have a total, you know, I think they're looking for some guidance.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, powerful point. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you really know how powerful that was, but I do. That was phenomenal. I mean, because that is such the truth, and I want to step in there with you and take some of that blame that you just put on.
Yeah, because I got.
I'm gonna jump in. Yeah, I'm gonna jump in there. I'm gonna jump in there and take some of it too, because you're right. We have failed. In one way or another, we have failed or dropped the ball or whatever it was, because when we was coming up, we knew.
Oh.
Okay, you're gonna nail her. Whatever I'm doing, I better stop.
Yes.
I don't care if they don't know.
Pass.
Yes, right now. Yes. So they get going, right? Yeah, exactly. And like you said, now they are looking for attention and they're looking for guidance.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing when they're acting out right now. They're acting out as a call, like, can somebody come send me? Can somebody come help me?
Yeah.
Instead of them asking it, their action is saying it.
Yeah.
But we have dropped the ball with not responding.
You
And
know,
I do believe that.
That is true, because my nephew, you know, he's been incarcerated, but you know, that was one of the things he said. You know, I wanted somebody to tell me to do this, or I wanted somebody to tell me to do that, or do my homework, or be my, you know, kids want that guidance, and even though they act as if they don't, they look at that as being normal. You know, they watch these programs, and that's what happens on these programs. You know, you get in trouble, and you know, blah blah blah. But kids want that, and
Yes.
as much as they act like they don't, they do.
They sure do. That is, I had to touch back on that, and like I said, I take some of that weight myself. Even though as much as I try to do with the youth, I still take that same blame that you put on the table. And I think if a lot more of us would take that there, a lot more would get done.
Yeah,
You know, a whole lot.
absolutely.
Yes, once again, y'all tuned into the Uncle Wu Show. We here live with our wonderful sister. She's here with a program called L.A.W.S. Lee Alexander West, with an S, spiritual movement. Powerful. And I can go on for days with just that name, but I'm not. We got another program. That's another day. Because just the word laws got something into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh, but anyway, yes, we're talking about something that's coming up. But before we did that, we just wanted to touch bases on some other areas. If you have a question, you got your phone right there? Yes?
Yeah,
Is it working?
Yeah. Phone is on.
Okay, put your phone on because mine's still charging. If you got a question or comment, give them the number.
It's 904-826-5202.
Say that again.
904-826-5202.
Okay, I'm gonna repeat that again because he did talk a little low. He got that Barry White type baritone voice.
How you doing?
His dad, King Iko, deep voice. So I'm gonna go ahead. He said 904-826-5202. All right. If you got a question, comment, or concern, call that number. Don't call me. Call that number. My phone is over yonder, getting some juice. Okay. Let me ask you another question here. Why do you feel that you need to start such a movement or such a foundation?
Throughout those 31 days, I mean, throughout his life, he had, you know, said what he was going to do when he made it big. Because I'm sure he was. He was a competitor, and he worked at it. You know, he put in the work to be at the level he was.
Right.
You know, and so, you know, like the last 31 days of his life, he just was constantly, you know, wanted to know how he could get himself in a better relationship with Christ, and all the things that he was going to do when he, you know, made it big. And I was like, well, I would just remember that Saturday before he passed, the 29th, and he just, you know, was about to walk up the steps with no shirt. He always was walking around showing his muscles. I don't know why, me and his sisters. But I remember him just looking back at me and smiling. He was so excited, you know. He had just made his plan, like he was gonna help single mothers and single fathers. He was going to be a role model, you know. He was going to give back, you know. Once he hit big, he was going to give back. And I just, you know, we just had been talking about how he was, you know, he was getting a little bored, you know, because, you know, when you start doing things and walking right, you know, you have to shed your old ways, you know, and so therefore you have to find, I think it's more of a mindset, you know, versus, you know, getting rid of everybody, you know, because I think he was, you know, he was not so much cutting ties because that's how, but he just knew that I didn't want to really go certain places because that could bring some type of situations that I didn't want to be guilty by association. Right. Pastor Everett had just preached a couple weeks prior about being guilty by association. Right. So I think he was like, I'm cutting everybody off that ain't rolling with me, like how I'm rolling, you know. But that's his 15-and-a-half-year-old mentality. So, you know, and so he was just telling me about all those things that he wanted to do when he became an adult. And I just, you know, felt, and I'm thinking, well, why? Because he liked to talk. So I was like, well, why is he can wait to tell me this. I mean, he has years before, you know, he has, you know, high school, he has college, and he wanted to be an engineer, so that's at least 2 more years. So I was like, he can tell me all this when he gets older. Why is he, you know, I'm trying to do my homework. And, but you know what, he didn't have that time.
Yes.
2 days later, he passed. So he was making sure that his wishes, these are things that he said, that he wanted to do. And even though he's not here physically, you know, his spirit as an amazing son, you know, amazing person, I think, you know, can live on. You know, these are things that he wanted to accomplish.
And I believe it too. I truly wholeheartedly believe that brother was in his element and has made a good circle. You know, and he was going to be, if he was going to be guilty by association, he was going to be guilty of a good association. And yes, and that was to make those type of moves without being told. As you were saying earlier about, you know, making them changes without being told is just moving for somebody in that age group. For me, it is. You know, because I know where I was at that age. I mean, wow. I mean, and like you said, not forcing the change on him, but letting him grow. He was growing into that change until he made it to that growth. He made it to that era. He made it there, and it was something that he had to put off to you. And you responded well. I want to commend you again, and I want to say, parents, listen to your children.
Absolutely.
Please listen to your children. And take some time out for them.
That's absolutely right.
Let's start. Why is that? I don't know. Well, start again. Okay, y'all, we back. I don't know what happened, but that's okay. We had to take a quick break, maybe. Anyway, like what I was saying, I believe that this man came into his full spirit and he wanted to pass the baton to moms, and he passed it. I don't think he could have passed it no one better. You know, can you tell me when is this event taking place?
It's going to be this Saturday, July 21st. We are going to take over the lower part of Bellevue. L.A.W.S movement, we have rented that out. So we will be taking over from the concession stand to the basketball courts. Wow. And so it's going to be July 21st, this Saturday, from 12 to 7. And we're going to have a host of things going on.
Go ahead.
We're going to be having kickball.
Yes.
Which I think kickball should be. I mean, they should be bringing that back. I mean,
oh yeah, we want to do it out the ball field, but too much other stuff happened.
No,
I had that in mind.
We need to bring that back.
Yeah, I was going to do that last Saturday. We was going to do that. We were supposed to. Then when I seen it, I had it on my mind for that one. But I looked at a flyer when he brought it down. I was like, whoa, them too. They talking about it. And I was hoping that we'd have had a winner out there. We could have took him up to the hill and said we want to challenge somebody.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
I was trying to get it there, but it didn't happen. Too many other things took me over at that moment, so it was meant to go up there first, and that's good. And I can't wait for that. I'm getting there.
Yeah, so it's going to be like an age specific because we want to make sure that we get all people involved, and it'll be like K through 4, 5th through 8th, and 9th and up.